Dave Mazzella was vice president all the way from May 1st, 1987, and to clear this up, he had become more and more into the skinhead scene, gotten away, and of course the vice presidency was a fictitious name anyway. He didn't have any duties, and Dave Mazzella was vice president. I was getting very discouraged with how Dave Mazzella was going, because he had strayed away from essentially...
Excuse me, Mr. Spencer, you have to answer the question that's asked. Was he the vice president from October 7th through the date of the murder? Yes or no?
No, he wasn't.
You remember me asking you this same question, and that was the title of Dave Mazzella when I took your deposition Thursday a week ago?
I'm sure you asked me that question, yes.
Well, didn't you tell me at the time that I asked you whether Dave Mazzella was vice president of your group, didn't you answer me, I'm blurry when he was or wasn't? A whole volume of things are whizzing around in my head. I don't know for sure.
Yes.
Is that what you told me?
You asked quite a few questions.
In response to that specific question, was that the answer you gave me?
Yes.
10 days ago. Whole volume of things are whizzing around in my head, and I don't know for sure when he was vice president. Is that what you told me?
Yes, I had to do some research.
So since last Thursday now, you got a better memory. Is that what you're telling me?
I had to cram. It's like an exam going in course. With this $10 million civil suit, I'm handling it myself. You can't expect me to know everything.
Now, did you know that was a central issue in this case? From the very beginning, it stated the complaint, Mr. Mazzella was an agent. You knew that, didn't you?
This whole case is ridiculous. That's what I've had to fight with myself all the way through it.
We just heard John Metzger talking about non-white hordes. To what extent do you think that hate crimes like this are traceable to the fear of an avalanche, their presence on talk shows?
You are there that you're better than us, but it's all over.
That's not an issue here.
And you, because I'm black, you will not have the choice to not to want to sit with me. You're gonna have to sit with me, because God's gonna have the last.
God said the black
First of all, I think.
I just heard what you said. You just said I don't sit with monkeys. You think because she's black, because I'm black, we're monkeys? Is that?
That's a proven fact.
That's a proven fact.
What are you afraid of?
The reason why I do that is because I get sick and tired of hearing the sob stories from kikes. I get sick and tired of seeing Uncle Tom here sucking up, trying to be a white
Go ahead, Roy, go ahead. No, let me tell you. Hey, you gotta be kidding. You gotta be kidding. You gotta be kidding. Hey, hold it. Hold it. Sit down.
Self-defense. Just less it was in self-defense. So you never told them that they maybe ought to kick a little ass then, unless it was in self-defense.
In self-defense.
You know, at this time I'd like to, for impeachment purposes, play a videotape of Mr. Metzger.
What should they do when they wake up?
Become a skinhead, quit drugs, and
quit
get some pride in their race and get some pride in themselves.
Maybe kick some ass once in a while?
Yeah.
You ever have to do that?
Oh, on occasion. We get to a wreck every now and then, I guess.
How about over here?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, every day, probably.
Mr. Metz, I'd like to ask you if you made a speech in Tequila, Oklahoma, at a skinhead Aryan meeting, 1989.
I believe I did.
Made it also in 1988, did you not?
Yes, I did.
Did you, in standing in front of the assembled skinheads and other people, make the statement, do you know why Jews are afraid of skinheads? Did you make that statement?
I don't recall. I make a lot of speeches.
Well, let me further ask you, and then I'll ask you to look at the speech in which you have it all in quotes. It says, and your answer was, because the skinheads kick ass. Now look on page 2.
Yes, as a figurative, it's figuratively speaking, yes.
Well, but so we'll make sure that you stated that there. Look on page 2 of Plaintiff's Exhibit 75. And the bottom sentence on the first column, I've highlighted it for you. It says, do you know why the Jews are worried about skinheads? You see that question? You asked that question, didn't you, to that group of people?
I believe I did.
And how did you answer your question?
Well, that one sentence said, do you know why Jews worried about skinheads? And it's because skinheads kick ass as part of a larger speech.
All right. And you were the one that made the statement there, correct?
I believe I did.
And the piece of video that we just saw, you were addressing skinheads at this very same meeting, talking to them about maybe you get a little ass sometimes. Is that what you said?
Yes, along those lines. That has happened a lot defensively.
Now, while we have the jury here, while we've got Plaintiff's Exhibit 75, which is, I assume you printed this in your own material, right?
I believe we did.
Now, you look through that and see if you see anywhere in that talk that you quoted yourself saying anything about self-defense. You remember you did this at your deposition.
I don't know whether I did or not.
Well, at your deposition, didn't we take the time, let me give you a copy of it. Didn't we take time at your deposition, taken on March 20th, 1990, for you to look through that entire, pardon me, for you to look through that entire speech?
I'll give you straight answers. I don't need to look through this whole thing.
So what was your answer then?
What was the question again?
The question was, you read this entire speech at your deposition while we waited for you to read it, and asked you, anywhere did you find anywhere that you talked about self-defense when you said and told skinheads to kick ass? And what was your answer then?
I don't recall for sure whether I did or not, but it's not required.
Well, let's look on page 191 of your deposition.
The people there know how I operate.
All right, look on page 191 of your deposition. Because it took me about 7 pages to get you to answer this question. That's why this deposition is so long. Look on page 191.
Is that the only reason?
Your Honor, can I clarify something for record?
Well, not at this point, Mr. Metzger.
Mr. Metzger, on line 17, I asked you the question. I said, Mr. Metzger, in reading the exhibit that I asked you to read, that was your speech, do you find the word or explanation of self-defense in referring to the skinheads using physical brutality against people? And you said what? You said, I think. And then I said, question. Find the word self-defense. And what was your answer? Just answer to the jury.
You mean line 24?
Line 24, what was your answer?
I said no.
Okay, thank you.
And the reason for that is I had spent hours and hours with these young people talking to them before I ever made the speech. And were all instructed on obeying the law and not getting their ass in a jam because it didn't help the movement. So they know what my position is.
So they know this already.
If they don't, they better.
But when you made this speech that we saw on television, and then when you made the speech you printed, you didn't say one word about self-defense.
And I didn't call for imminent violence either, did I?
Now, Mr. Metzger, you did some sort of an investigation of this killing of Mr. Sarrar long before a lawsuit was filed, did you not?
Well, I didn't have much information. I couldn't afford to get the police reports and things, so I just had to go by what I could piece together. It was very difficult.
Well, didn't you, on about 2 months after the murder of Mr. Sarrar, didn't you put on your tape for the other skinheads to listen to that Mr. Sarrar did that Mr. Mischke did a civic duty to kill Sarrar?
I don't recall any such thing.
C-84, let's refresh your memory here. Joe, play this, please, and let's ask him some questions about this.
Attention operator, this number takes no collect calls. You have reached Aryan Update, a production of War, White Aryan Resistance, P.O. Box, California, 92028. Dateline, Portland, Oregon. That the initial BS is waning in the skinhead Ethiopian confrontation, we may find that these beautiful people were high on crack. And many of these beautiful Negroes had law arrest records. Sounds like the skinheads did a civic duty. And they didn't even realize it.
And Mr. Metzger, does that refresh your memory? Did you, based on your investigation of this murder, state that Mr. Mischke had done a civic duty to the citizens of the United States to kill Mr. Sorrell.
Well, that's not the total statement. I heard the whole thing.
Yes. Did you answer that question?
I said,
Are you denying your tape?
I said it sounds like they may have.
Okay.
Because it was found that these men were involved in those kind of activities.
So there was smoking crack and all that kind of stuff, and you thought it's a civic duty to kill them. Is that what your investigation showed?
No, I didn't say that. I said it could have been.
Could have been.
I've heard cops say it many times.
So is that kind of a little hint you put out to your skinheads that if they see somebody that might be have an arrest record, shoplifting, that it's a civic duty to kill them?
This statement, so the jury doesn't get confused, was made long, long after the events.
What's the date on that statement?
January 30th, 1989.
And how long was that after the event?
It was quite a while.
Well, what, 2 months?
Yeah. It was after the fact.
That's right. After you'd had a chance to investigate, and after you'd had a chance to describe this killing to other skinheads who called this hotline. Is that correct?
Yes. We found these Ethiopians have been involved in lots of things. But it never came out in court.
And Mr. Mischke, you thought, did a civic duty to murder them, right?
That was a generic choice of words.
Now, let me ask you this. Give me 85, Joe. A few months later, Mr. Mischke got sentenced. And at that time, did you describe him to skinheads on this telephone line who might call in as a young freedom fighter? And then wasn't the message then was to tell the Ethiopians to get their ass out of this country? You remember that?
I may have said that. I don't recall.
Well, let you listen to it, and I've got some questions to ask you concerning it. Joe, play it.
Hello, collect calls. You have reached war, white Aryan resistance, Aryan update. P.O. Box, California, 92028. Update, Portland, Oregon. One young fighter, Ken Mischke, received life for winning a fight with an Ethiopian recently. If your rotten government was not letting in all this mud, young white men would not have to be doing this time. Never forgive. Don't get mad. Just get even. Your times will come. And don't fight for their silly wars. Don't fight for the corporations. Tell them to get their Ethiopian ass out of this country.
Now, do you remember that now that you've heard yourself?
That's my voice.
Well, let's just run through that kind of quickly here.
Okay.
First of all, in the ears of skinheads who might be calling to listen to this from around the United States, you described Mr. Mischke as a young fighter. Is that right?
He must have been. He was in a fight.
Is this glorifying Mr. Mischke for having received a sentence of 20 years to life for murder? Is this an attempt to glorify this man?
I don't recall whether he'd been sentenced to life at that time or not, do you?
Well, you see, you state that in the article, in the phone message. You said, one young fighter, Ken Mischke, received life. Read the date of this transcript.
This is June of 12.
1989.
Right.
Now, okay, let's run on down through here. It said, if your rotten government...
Yeah, my rotten government, that's right. Make sure that gets out there.
...was not letting all this mud, Now, talk to...
Illegal invasion and everything like that. Yes.
Do you think Mr. Raw was here illegally? Is that what you said?
I believe the invasion of the third world in this country is illegal, whether the government calls it illegal or not.
Define mud for us, if you would.
I didn't create the term.
Well,
You'll have to ask a man in the East who publishes a newspaper that uses that term all the time, created it.
Well, how did you mean it when you put it on your machine here? You used the word.
Well, he uses it in a derogatory way of non-white people that he doesn't get along with.
Well, just tell the jury, if you would, who you would consider mud people.
Oh, you could use mud, you could use third world, you can use any term you want.
Well, would a Jewish person be mud?
Some of them would be even a little worse than mud.
What about a black person?
It depends on that individual.
So it just means certain individuals. Is that what you mean?
Well, that's